W5FC. Dallas Races Net, first and third Sunday, 8 p.m., W5FC.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
And does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight? Skynet! I'll take that as a no. This is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net call to every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purposes are to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net, so please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me this evening, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. This weekly net operates on this frequency with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or the famous Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Just go to the club website, which is W5FC.org. That's whiskey5friedchicken.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateurs are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate this evening. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. We have general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, November National Space Society events, the discussion topic of the evening selected by the NCS, that's me, was space exploration and space history, although we have a special topic this evening. Virginia NV5F will be giving us a presentation on space communication revolution. And then it's back to Chaz with the constellations of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, an astronomical Q&A if we have time, and a 73 round if we also have time after the Q&A. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So let's get started with, I will take low power short time check-ins. If you are one of those, please come with your call sign, phonetically your name, where you're transmitting from, and let me know if you're low power short time. Although you're going to be grouped with either one, so just come with your call.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power.
This is Kilo India 5 Gulf Romeo Hotel. Search City, short time. Can I get a city?
This is Kilo India 5, Kilo Tango Zulu, Philip, White Rock Creek, low power, 5 watts.
This is Whiskey Foxtrot 5 Tango Alpha Bravo, Phyla, and Whiskey Foxtrot 5 Juliet Lima Bravo Jeff in Trophy Club, mobile, short time.
I'm going to need one fill on that, but let me go ahead and get everybody checked in. I've got W5GUS, Gus, far northeast Dallas, he's low power. KI5GRH, Melissa, she's short time over in Cert City. KI5KTZ, Philip over in White Rock Creek. He is at low power 5 watts. And then I got Twyla, I believe, WF5TAB, mobile. And then, Twyla, could you give me Jeff's call sign? I missed it while I was writing your stuff out.
Jeff is WF5, Whiskey Foxtrot 5, Juliet Lima Bravo.
Okay, I got WF5JLB, that's you, mobile, and then I got Whiskey Foxtrot 5, Whiskey Foxtrot, maybe, I'm just rusty tonight. Give me Jeff's call one more time, please.
Yes, Jeff is Whiskey Foxtrot 5, Juliet Lima Bravo. That's Jeff. Mine is WF5TAB.
Thank you. Third time is the charm. WF5TAB for you and WF5JLB for Jeff. I got you all checked in. So that's all the low power short time. Anybody who has checked in have anything for the net before you disappear into the ether? Come with your call now. All right, it's now time for general check-in. So please come with your call phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
November 5, Bravo, Bill in Irving.
My name's not General, but I'll check in anyway. Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Planet Earth, Mesquite.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J. Air Weather.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in East Dallas.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Okay, there's a pause in the action. Let me go ahead and get those check-ins. I've got N5BB, Bill in Irving, KF5JHA, that's Chaz on planet Earth, somewhere near Mesquite. That must be where his landing pad is. KG5BZW, that's Jay near Weatherford. NT5TM, Tony, he's in East Dallas tonight. That's interesting. NB5F, one of our presenters, Virginia in Fort Worth. I will take additional check-ins. Please come now.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB4MFI, Ted Dallas, late low power.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Oh, coming in tonight, but I do have WB4MFI. That's Ted in Dallas. He's low power, late check-in. That's okay. KF5ZBL, Mr. Bill in Farmers Branch. Okay, let me go over to Echolink, and then I'll get back to general check-ins. If you're on Echolink and have not checked in, would like to do so, now is the time. Please come with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from. I will give you extra time. Please go ahead. Echolink only.
5 Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Norman, Oklahoma.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo, Tango, X-Ray, Kelly, in Quinlan for a little longer.
All right, I do know, looking here, that everyone else has checked in except for K5JDW, John in Norman, Oklahoma, in his winter palatial abode. And I've got K5KTX, Miss Kelly, over in Quinlan. Hang around for a while. All right, I'll open it up to anybody who would like to check in. Please come now with your call sign, phonetically your name, where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
Okay, I did get James. I'll need a fill. I think it's Kilo Fox 5 Whiskey Victor Lima. James, you cut out after the K. Could you confirm that?
Yes, Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima.
Thank you. KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima. James in Carrollton. Anyone else before we move on to the next part of the net?
Kilo India 5, Whiskey Tango, Joe in Dallas.
Okay, picked up KI5WWT, Joe in Dallas. Welcome, Joe. There'll be additional opportunities to check in a little bit later, so let me go ahead and get started with the net. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come with your call now.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
NT5TM, Tony, you're the guy. Go ahead.
Good evening, Tom. We just have an amazingly active weekend in ham radio. This is the weekend of the January VHF contest from the ARRL. You can go to ARRL.org for more info. This is also, well, we just finished the Cowtown Ham Fest, so that's over, but this is also 7 days before Winter Field Day. Winter Field Day is Saturday of next weekend. Well, Saturday and Sunday, but it starts Saturday. For more details, please check out W5FC.org. But really, the short version of the story is that the Dallas Amateur Radio Club will be out at the T.W. Richardson Grove Park, setting up, I believe, around 11, commencing operation at 1. We'll try to stay out there till sunset around 6-ish, plus or minus a little depending on conditions. This is a shine-only event. If the weather is adverse, there's an ice storm or hard rain or something, there's no point in freezing. It is January after all. We'll stay home. But even if we have a great afternoon in the park, remember that this still leaves plenty of time for you to participate in Winter Field Day from home. The White Rock Lake Amateur Radio Club has 2 foxes out at White Rock Lake. Head to K5YR.com. That's Kilo 5 Yankee Romeo.com/foxhunt for more details. In addition, if you have never hunted for a hidden radio transmitter before, we have you covered. We have I don't know if it's 3 or 3:30. But we do have a training class going on tomorrow, starting at the Bathhouse Cultural Center, and we will help you find the foxes. We have expert teachers available. I think the correct time is 3 p.m. I've walked away from my notes. I will double check that and come back a little later in the net with a clarification if needed. Of course, the Dallas Amateur Radio crews need your help. I mentioned this during TechNet. I'm going to keep mentioning it now. We have a Whitten and Griffith Community Service Award that is designed to recognize a DARC member who's gone above and beyond in the cause of public service through amateur radio. We need your nominations. You don't have to be a DARC member to nominate someone, although the winner must be a club member. Please go to w5fc.org and use the Contact Us form. Just tell us a little bit, a couple hundred words about why your nominee should win. We do need your help because we don't know what we don't know. We don't know who's out there, who's been serving the public, and you might. So please nominate someone if you think they deserve it. And finally, although this is a totally awesome net, it's not the last net of the evening. We'll be discussing the strange and interesting movie with an original premise, Robot and Frank, tonight at about 10:30 p.m., plus or minus 5 minutes, on this repeater. It's our last net of the night of nets, and it's always an interesting one. Sometimes the movie is terrible, sometimes the movie is excellent, sometimes the movie is surprising and interesting. I think that's what we've got going here. Hope to hear you tonight. Hope you find the fox. Hope you come out and join us on Winter Field Day. Check w5fc.org for more details. NT5TM.
Very good. Thank you, Tony. Does anybody need any fills? Have any questions? Please come with your call. All right, hearing none. Yeah, I agree. I did watch the movie this afternoon. I had a dinner engagement last night, so I couldn't stick with the usual folks. Watch the film at 8 o'clock until whenever it ends, and then we make little comments back and forth over on the Facebook page. But I did get to see it this afternoon while watching the ball game, and I enjoyed it as well. I've got some additional information on it in a few minutes. I also want to acknowledge Marcia, KG50MR. She's over on the YouTube channel mentioning that she would like to be checked in, and I have done so. Welcome, Marcia. Okay, we have other announcements. These you've probably heard a million times before, but maybe this is your first net. I think at least one person it is. The AMSAT Amateur Radio Satellite Group has actually 3 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. You'll need Echolink installed, and you registered on Echolink. You can find a net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, there's a live audio link that's available on their website, which is amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas, and that's where their main headquarters are. Dallas AMSAT Net East is Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater. Tuesday, this would be Tom, N5HYP is the net control, and all are welcome to check in. He also does a net AMSAT Net West every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater. That's 147.140 megahertz with the Oakland on 110.9. Has a positive offset. So if you miss Tuesday, come on by on Wednesday. Or if you're really into amateur satellites, come on by both nets. The Dallas Amateur Radio Club has a bunch of nets. Monday nights are the big nights, starting at 7 p.m. for each and every one of the nets I'm about to mention. The first week is Ham Fixin's net, where you get to learn about cooking and other cool things, kitchen gadgets and all of that, because we all know that hams not only like to eat, but they like to cook. The first week, first Monday. Second week is MCOM 101 and 5KRG. That would be Kevin will give you a lowdown on emergency communications, which is always popular. He uses non-denominational, so it does not involve any particular group, and all are welcome to check in. The third week, Monday, is a second helping of ham fixins. You know about that. The fourth week is GeekNet. We expand beyond just amateur radio and into all things geeky, computers, programming, you name it, whatever it is you want to bring up. Tony, NT5TM, hosts that net. He does a really excellent job. He's our super geek. And if there's a fifth week, we have a surprise net. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise, and on-air participation is encouraged. It is a competition, nearly always. Be really a lot of fun. We also have on Fridays, Cert City at 8 p.m., and that's with Melissa, KI5GRH. She will tell you everything about Cert Train Amateur Radio Up, about Cert training, and emergency communications at Cert City, the most disaster-prone city in the universe, every Friday, and all are welcome to that net. Saturday evenings, of course, is the night of net. You were on TechNet from 7 to 8 earlier this evening, and if you weren't, you missed it. Of course, Skynet, which is at 9 o'clock until 10:30. We also have on the first and third Sundays, we got the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air, or MODA. You're welcome to attend that meeting. That is also at 7 p.m. Daily is the ARRL National Traffic System Training Net at 6:30. This will give you experience in formalized message traffic handling and a formalized net. You can do no wrong because it is a training net. All sins forgiven. You are welcome to check into any or all of these nets. Now, there was a mention about tonight's movie, Robot and Frank, which, by the way, I rather like, but I wrote this ditty up before I actually saw the film, so here we go. Frank looked at the gift his son had given him. It was a robot designed to make sure Frank didn't buy too much stuff off Amazon. The robot was ordered to immediately smash his computer and then lock him in his room. Frank, after watching Silent Running, began to wonder if he could manipulate the robot. At first, he could get the cute things to pick up pizza and save delivery charges, but later discovering letting his little robot friend rob the pizza store was much more profitable, and you still got hot pizza. This had turned into a win-win situation. Now if he could get the robot to drive a getaway car, now that would be something. Join us for Robot and Frank from 2012 tonight at 10:30 p.m. It's really worth it. If you can still watch it now, that's an hour and a half long and you'll miss Skynet. Okay, let me go ahead and see if there's any additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo India 5, Uniform Juliet Dustin in Dallas. November Tango 5, Tango Mike recheck.
W5 BLT, Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, Bill, Scarlet.
All right, we got a recheck. That would be Tony NT5TM. I'll be back to you in just a moment. KI5UUJ, Dustin in Dallas. W5BLT, Bill, I think it's Dallas. You kind of went into the ether, but I'm going to put down Dallas for now. And Tony, NT5TM, go ahead with your recheck.
Thank you, Tom. I was speaking without my notes earlier, and, well, my notes, maybe I need a robot assistant to look after my memory. My notes told me that the fox hunting class that meets at the Bathhouse Cultural Center tomorrow, that's just off of Buckner Boulevard here in East Dallas, meets at 3:30, not 3, 3:30, 15:30 local time. If you've never found a hidden transmitter before, we have expert teachers available, and we're all going to meet up in front of the Bathhouse Cultural Center tomorrow at 15:30, 3:30 p.m. The 3 p.m. time I gave earlier was an error. The correct time is 3:30. NT5TM.
All right, thank you. Yes, I do see that update over here on Echolink as well. So thank you very much, Tony. And let's see, I'm going to go ahead and check in a few people on Echolink that I see that are new. I've got N5IMS, JJ and Carrollton, one of our regulars, and then I've got KG5Z Whiskey Echo, that's John, somewhere out there, but I've got you checked in. I think everybody else is already checked in. All right, next up we talk about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, and that includes where and when you can look through a telescope. So I think Chaz will probably do that since he's got a screen and everything, a slide for that. So Chaz, KF5JHA, what do you have for us this evening? KE5ICX.
Why, thank you, Mr. General. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, January the 27th. That's in 6 days. And the meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. And also, there'll be a Zoom segment, too. The featured speaker is Dr. Erika Ellingson from the University of Colorado, and her topic is going to be on prehistoric moon watchers. This should be fascinating. Now, the Saturday night public observing sessions have begun again. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. I think, I'm not sure, but I think there could be an observing session going on right now. I'm not sure. It could be at Frisco. If there's somebody there that's a ham radio operator and wants to make a report, please come down with your call sign. Was wishful thinking anyway. It cleared off right around sunset. That was awesome. Check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And we'll send it back to our net control. Tom, it's all yours. KE5ICX. This is KF5JHA.
Very good. Thank you, Chaz. We'll be back to you in a little bit. Next up, the segment is National Space Society events and activities. That would be Bill, N5BB. Bill, what do you got for us this evening from KE5ICX?
Hi, Tom. This is N5BB. I am the membership director and member at large of the National Space Society North Texas chapter. Our meetings are on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. So our next meeting will be on Sunday afternoon, February the 12th. I don't know the topic yet. We meet in Irving at Spring Creek Barbecue on Highway 183. Our big news is the International Space Development Conference, which is going to be in Frisco, Texas, on May the 25th through the 28th of this year, 2023. If you're a member of the National Space Society, you will get a big discount in signing up early for that conference. If you have any questions or interest in the National Space Society, please contact me, November 5 Bravo Bravo at ARRL.net or space@byram.net. Also, I just might point out that there was today at the Cowtown Hemfest and yesterday at the Cowtown Hemfest, both days. I was there along with Tom Schessler and Virginia Smith and Randy for the MSAT tables. I'll get it out. The MSAT tables at the Cowtown Hemfest. We had great fun, and there was a nice presentation by WA0D on some presentations on the IRIS project, the amateur radio on the International Space Station. And Virginia had her little demo CubeSat simulator there. So, fun was had by all. That's all I got, Tom, N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. I'll go ahead and ask, does anybody need any fills or need additional information? Please come with your call now. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our discussion topic of the evening. Get everybody checked in over here. Put a little marker there. So the NCS always gets the opportunity to come up with a topic for the evening, and I came across this one over on space.com. I'm not an expert or anything like that, but I found it rather interesting. The article is a little short for our presentation, so I went ahead and went to the wiki site and picked up additional information about how this was discovered. Tonight's topic and the headline for the article, which is I will read to you in full, is "Meteorite that crashed onto UK driveway contains the building blocks of life." So here we go, and this was written by Elizabeth Rain and also Wiki and the mystery people who did that. And I hope I'm pronouncing this right. The Winchcombe meteorite is a meteorite that was observed entering the Earth's atmosphere as a fireball over Gloucestershire, England. I'm sure somebody who's of English descent knows properly how to say that. At 21:54 hours on February 28, 2021. Due to a public appeal, fragments were quickly recovered from the village of Winchcombe, enabling it to be collected for analysis before becoming degraded. It is a 4.6 billion-year-old meteorite originating from the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. It was the first meteorite found in Britain since 1991. Fragments of the meteorite were displayed at the London Natural History Museum on May 17, 2021. Now it says images of the luminous, I'm not sure what that is, or maybe it's luminous meteorite, were captured by 6 camera networks of the UK Fireball Alliance, which is led by the National History Museum, as well as on the doorbell cameras of private dwellings. There are also over 1,000 eyewitness accounts from the UK and elsewhere in Northern Europe, as well as a sonic boom heard in the local area. The observations allowed its trajectory to be reconstructed. A public appeal was issued for fragments. Subsequently, a family found a pile of dark stones and powder on the driveway of their home in Winchcombe. They had heard a sound at the time when the meteorite hit, but did not investigate outside until the morning. Upon discovering the fragments, they placed them in a bag, and these were taken to London for analysis. In total, 319 grams, or 11.3 ounces of material, was collected from their driveway and lawn. In the following days, further fragments were found nearby, including the single largest stone from the meteorite found on farmland and weighing 5.4 ounces. But this split in two during recovery. On March 21st, meteorite hunter Chris Casey found a 0.42 ounce half stone on a grass verge in Winchcombe. This was followed by another find of 0.62 ounces on March 25th at Bishop's Cleeve, and on March 25th, Chris Casey and Luther Jackson found a 0.68 ounce stone in Bishop's Cleeve, and on April 1st, Luther Jackson, while hunting with Chris Casey and Graham Elsner, found a fragmented 0.18 ounce stone on the Bishop's Cleeve footpath. The total amount recovered stands at 21.2 ounces, comprising hundreds of pieces. On September 8, 2021, a local construction company removed an indented section of asphalt driveway where the meteorite had landed and delivered a 1 meter square, 11 square feet of material to London's Natural History Museum. Now, if you're watching the video portion of our net, you'll see what it looks like. Pretty good chunk. Pieces of the Winchcombe meteorite are now part of the display in the Winchcombe Museum, which tells the story of its origins, unexpected arrival, and its scientific significance. The meteorite is thought to be a carbonaceous chondrite that first collected on impact in Britain. The fragment did not experience rainfall and was placed in a protected environment within 12 hours of falling to Earth, meaning that the quality of the sample is comparable to those retrieved by probes from asteroids and offers a near pristine record of the composition of primitive asteroids. It is a similar type to that retrieved by the Hayabusa 2 mission from the asteroid 162173 Rygu. And just reported here a couple of days ago on space.com, here's the actual article that showed up. The Winchcombe meteorite contains amino acids that potentially led to life on Earth. The meteorite, which crashed onto a driveway in England in 2021, is pristine enough to rival samples taken directly from space. Contains amino acids that potentially lead to the spawning of life on Earth. When scientists analyzed fragments of the meteorite, they found that the asteroid it broke off from once had liquid water, and that the meteorite itself contains organic compounds, including amino acids, some of which are the precursors to the proteins that make up DNA and are vital for life on Earth. It says here, studying the organic inventory of the Winchcombe meteorite provided us with a window into the past, how simple chemistry kick-started the origin of life and birth of our solar system. Queenie Chan, a lecturer at Earth Sciences at the Royal Holloway University of London, who led the research, said in a statement, Chan and her colleagues think that the Winchcombe meteorite might belong to an entirely new category of meteorite. Although the space rock is a carbonaceous chondrite, already considered rare, its extraterrestrial organic matter sets it apart. Because the Winchcombe fragments were collected soon after they fell to Earth, there is almost no chance for terrestrial contamination. Therefore, the organic matter found inside the meteorite is believed to be as it was when the asteroid it came from was hurtling through space. There's another characteristic that makes the Winchcombe meteorite a time capsule. Evidence of liquid water from the distant past. Among the organic matter the scientists discovered was organic matter that could be dissolved and probably has been dissolved in water. Parts of the meteorite were found to be more chemically altered by water than others. Scientists think water from the space rock's parent asteroid set off a chemical reaction that created the meteorite's amino acids, some of which are rare on Earth. Those same types of amino acids eventually form proteins from which primitive life forms would emerge billions of years later. What makes the Winchcombe meteorite even more mind-blowing is that its structure should have made it too weak to make it to the surface, the team said. The Winchcombe meteorite represents an unusual sample that would not typically survive atmospheric entry, Chan and colleagues wrote in their study. What exactly was needed to kickstart life on Earth remains a mystery. However, organics, especially amino acids found in meteorites like Winchcombe, are taking scientists closer to the origin of living things. And this research was described in a paper published on January 9th by the Journal of Meteoritics and Planetary Science. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I'd probably go and read the article if I can understand it. So that's it. The Winchcombe meteorite is in the news once again. All right, I will go ahead and take additional check-ins before we move to the next section, which will be What's Up. But first, I want to hear from you. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Okay, everybody's tight-lipped this evening, but I have a feeling we'll get additional people in a little bit. All right, well, the next segment is Chaz once again. So, Chaz, we're waiting to hear what you have from What's Up from KE5ICF.
Why, thank you, Tom. This is Jazz, KF5JHA. We call this segment of Skynet Was Up because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks. That was slide number 1, Slide Master. By the way, if you didn't know who the Slide Master was, that's Tom, yeah. Slide Master, slide number 2, please. On January the 21st, oh wait, that's today, we have a new moon. Also, today, on January 21st, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 356,569 kilometers. Bob doesn't like me talking so much. Bob the cat is right beside the computer. On January the 28th is the first quarter phase of the moon. On February the 4th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,476 kilometers. And full moon will be occurring on February the 5th. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. On January 22nd, there is a conjunction of Venus and Saturn in the low western evening sky. The very thin crescent moon is just below the pair of planets, but this is only part of the story. 4 of the 5 visible planets are in the evening sky. In addition to Venus and Saturn, Jupiter is high in the southwestern sky, and Mars is just about overhead, too. That's kind of cool. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. On January the 25th, the moon and Jupiter will be in conjunction high in the southwestern evening sky. Slide Master, slide number 5. On January the 30th, the moon will occult the planet Mars. This event will be best observed with a pair of binoculars or a telescope, but you can see it with your 2 eyes. At around 11:19 and 12 seconds Central Standard Time, the moon covers up, that's PM by the way, the moon covers up or occults the planet Mars. And then a few minutes after midnight at 12:03, that would be on January the 31st, 12:03 and 10 seconds Central Standard Time, Mars will be reappearing from behind the moon. Now the times will vary depending on where you're located in the Metroplex. The times that I've given you are calculated for Brookhaven campus of Dallas College. Wonder why that is. Slide Master, slide number 6, please. Now, I've ignored the predictions about this comet for several months, but no longer. Comet C2022 E3 ZTF is now within the range of binoculars in a couple of weeks, maybe in about a week, I should say, could be visible to the unaided eyes. Well, at least if you're away from the city lights. It was discovered back in March of 2022 at the Zwicky Transient Facility. Comet magnitude estimates are difficult to predict, but this comet has lived up to its predictions. Currently, it's at an estimated magnitude of about 6.0, which is right around the limit of naked eye visibility if you're in very dark skies. And at the end of January, or the first few days of February, it could be as bright as 5.3 magnitude. The video portion of Skynet, if you're over there and watching that, has a recent image and a couple of finder charts. Tomorrow morning, in the early morning sky, the comet is located in between the constellations of Hercules and Draco. A week from now, the comet will be close to the bowl of the Little Dipper. Now, if you want more information, just search for Comet 2022 E3, and you should find a lot more information. This is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 7 again, please. Once again, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, January the 27th, in 6 days. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and it's also held on Zoom. Featured speaker is Dr. Erica Ellingson from the University of Colorado, and her topic is going to be on prehistoric moon watchers. Once again, Saturday night public observing stations have begun once again. Find out all sorts of information about the Texas Astronomical Society by going to their website, texasastro.org. Slide Master, slide number 8, please. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question, or maybe need a fill on any of the information, or you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Okay, don't hear anything. Slide Master, slide number 9. So as the moon waned this past couple of weeks, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live, well, at least right now. And until next time, actually, I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in just a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA, back to our net control. I'll talk to you guys in a few more minutes.
All right, very good. Thank you, Chaz, and thank you for that lowdown, and we'll be back to you in a little bit. So tonight we have a special feature. I asked Virginia if she could help us out. She's NV5F, and she enthusiastically said yes. She has the topic about space communications revolution. Brenda is off on places undisclosed. She's on a conference, so I think she's learning how to churn butter. But you'll have to ask her when she comes back. Unfortunately, even though she did pick tonight's movie, she won't be here to be able to discuss it. So let's go ahead and go with Virginia and V5F. What do you have for us this evening from KE5ICX?
KE5ICX, this is NV5F. Well, first I'll just start by seeing if everybody can hear me okay. So please, Tom, let me know if I sound all right.
Virginia, you're perfectly readable. It's good signal and good audio, so please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a little piece that I wrote during the end of the fall, and I thought it would work very well. This would normally be the space history and technology segment, so I think it works really well here. So I will begin. This is called NASA's Space Communication Revolution. I did this research for a class that I was taking and was pleasantly surprised by some of the cool stuff that I found out that NASA is spearheading to change the paradigm of communications for the space renaissance. So, without further ado, here we go. NASA's long-awaited Artemis 1 launched on its automated mission to the moon on November 16th of 2022. This historic mission has not only captured the interest of the space community and the world, but it has also captured the majority of NASA's deep space communication capability during its 25-day trek, causing other lower priority probes to take a back seat and lose precious communication time, which is used to transfer data from computer memory when computer memory is exhausted. Near-Earth missions such as the new James Webb Space Telescope, JWST, as well as deep space probes such as Voyager 1 depend on the same network, which uses 14 antennas at relay stations in California, Spain, and Australia. It is needless to say that the demands made on space communication infrastructure will only grow in the coming years, and while the biggest thing at stake in the current situation is possible data loss due to the limited memory capacities of the onboard computer systems of vehicles such as Webb and Voyager, this raises questions that cannot be ignored. What will be done to make sure demand for communication services for the increasing exploration and commercialization of space is met, and who will lead this effort? In the midst of the space exploration renaissance of the 21st century, as NASA has paved the way for and cooperated with commercial space industry in developing spacecraft systems, it has also begun to redefine space communications with innovations in radio technology, new transmission methods, as well as plans to integrate its communication system for near-Earth missions with burgeoning commercial services. In the late 50s and early 60s, as the Mercury program took off, it was determined that once spacecraft and satellites began orbiting Earth, a system of relay stations would be needed to maintain constant contact with the missions. This system was a series of remote sites which attempted to keep an unbroken line of sight contact with orbiting craft and crew while relaying communications to mission control and then back to the capsule. Since the 50s, NASA communication for manned and automatic spacecraft has evolved from the use of UHF relay stations to a constellation of relay satellites, tracking and data relay satellites, TDRS. A set of geosynchronous relay satellites which work in conjunction with stations in White Sands, New Mexico, and Guam to keep the International Space Station in continuous contact with Earth. While deep space probes and orbiting observatories count on the previously mentioned Deep Space Network, the TDRS and the ISS are at the heart of what NASA is doing to develop new communication solutions. In 2019, the station was brought into the 21st century with an increase in data speed up to 600 megabits per second. While this was a vast improvement to dial-up slow data transfer from the ISS, it was only the beginning. NASA's Space Communication and Navigation, SCAN, administered a set of communication experiments from the ISS from 2012 to 2019 to study the uses of unproved radio technology. Software-defined radio, SDR, is a system wherein computers can configure a transmitter and receiver to suit specific and immediate communication needs. The versatile SDR software can be easily reconfigured on the fly to allow the system to operate on available frequencies and needed modes. SDR tests by SCAN proved this type of instantaneous resetting of communication hardware posed no risk and was actually a way to ensure crew safety, as it would allow comms to be quickly rerouted in case of trouble on the usual loop. The spectrum is a limited natural resource, and multiple users cannot transmit radio signals at the same frequencies at the same time in the same direction without creating signal interference problems. This reality leads to the next SCAN implementation of use of the Ka band and cognitive communication. The Ka band is in the higher frequency range of microwave spectrum, 27 to 40 gigahertz, and allows wide bandwidth for higher speed data transfer, while cognitive communications is use of machine learning and SDR to determine the best and clearest route for communications and large amounts of data in real time. In this way, the most efficient use of vacant and shared spectrum can be made at all times by use of software-defined radio linked with artificial intelligence. On the frontier of high-frequency, high-bandwidth data transmission, NASA is venturing into an even more revolutionary development with optical communication. First in 2014 with preliminary work on the optical payload for laser comm science, and continuing with the Laser Communication Array Demonstration, LCRD, launched on December 7th, 2021, to an orbit of 22,000 miles. This system is currently testing use of eye-safe infrared lasers, which are able to transmit terabytes of data. Beginning this year, NASA is testing a similar system called Terabyte Infrared Delivery, T-BIRD, for near-Earth optical communications at the highest data rate ever achieved by the space agency. The next step will be next year in 2023, with the beginning of, that would be this year, at the writing of this it was next year, The next step will be next year in 2023 with the beginning of integrated LCRD, low Earth orbit user modem and amplifier terminal, Illumity, an experiment to integrate these high-speed optical modes on the ISS and the LCRD satellite. This will be the first complete optical system to operate between geosynchronous, low Earth orbit, and ground. The culmination of these experiments will be on the second Orion mission, Artemis II, where a system called Laser Enhanced Mission and Navigation Operational Services, LEMNOS, will be utilized to provide high-speed data to the crew on the next manned mission visit to the moon, allowing for 4K video and massive data return. These optical systems are also being developed and explored for small automated spacecraft. Another major development by NASA is to begin transition to depending on the commercial space communications infrastructure. At first, what seems to be an unexpected choice might feel a bit counterintuitive for the agency, which defined the standard in space communications, especially as space comms become more and more complex. However, commercial organizations have already been cooperating with NASA in their current endeavors, such as exploring SDR and optical modes. By transitioning to commercial communication services, NASA will free up personnel and resources to focus on technology, development, deep space missions, and crew safety, and create a more interoperable space communication marketplace. As with the paradigm shift after the end of the Space Shuttle program, where NASA transitioned from paying contractors to build proprietary craft to commissioning the design and use of commercial transportation for low Earth orbit, LEO, NASA will in essence become a customer for direct-to-Earth communications and lunar relay systems. This plan will free up the NASA Deep Space Network for continuous contact with ongoing missions such as JWST, Juno, and Mars exploration. The shift will take advantage of privately funded resources and, in turn, bolster the commercial space economy, increase entrepreneurship, and ensure that American companies remain world leaders in space technology. This is a win-win for government space programs and development of a solid low Earth orbit infrastructure. NASA would like to partner with industry to develop the above-mentioned communication technology for LEO space-to-Earth and space-to-space comm, as well as creating and maintaining commercial communication standards where feasible and eventually establish mutually beneficial standards that enable interoperable communications between all users in space. As the needs, systems, and demands made on the traditional space communication infrastructure grow more complex, NASA is making and implementing some bold choices. As a publicly funded agency which has perennially taken the lead in technological development and exploration, NASA is constantly under intense scrutiny and therefore must do its utmost to protect assets and human life. Communication is essential to these goals and is an area where NASA can afford to experiment, cooperate, and innovate at a high rate. These new systems balance the need to transmit larger amounts of information with the more and more crowded radio spectrum, while also making major advances in capabilities of an integration with traditional means of communication through commercialization. Another result of the change to use of commercial services for direct-to-Earth is to free up NASA to develop novel systems for deep space operations such as missions to Mars and outer planets, which will require complex and robust communication solutions. Of course, these changes are in the interest of science and exploration, but even more so to ensure preservation of human life and general well-being of the people who are venturing on the final frontier as scientists, colonists, or entrepreneurs. For no matter what humanity undertakes in space, and to the valuable people who undertake it, communication is key. So that's my little treatise on the current developments in space communication. being led by NASA and commercial companies, and I hope everyone enjoyed that. And thank you very much for your attention. This is NV5F.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Virginia, for providing that presentation this evening. That helped out a lot, and it's a very interesting topic as well. Does anyone have any questions for Virginia? Please come with your call now. All right, let's see here. Let me look. I'll tell you what, let's do another segment, and then I'll take check-ins after that. So let's go back to Chas, KF5JHA. What do you have for us for Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week from KE5ICX?
Thank you, Tom. Slide Master, slide number 10, please. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019 with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Such are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations. So Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Taurus the Bull. Now, Taurus is the 17th largest constellation in the sky, occupying an area of 797 square square degrees. Its name means bull in Latin. Isn't that funny? The constellation is symbolized by the bull's head, and not the entire body, just the head. It is one of the oldest constellations. Its history dates back to the Bronze Age. Now, Taurus is one of the 12 constellations of the zodiac, first cataloged by Greek astronomer Ptolemy in the 2nd century. In Greek mythology, the constellation is associated with Zeus, who transformed himself into a bull to get closer to Europa in order to abduct her. Slide Master, slide number 11, please. Well, this is what everyone's been waiting for. I know. That's why you hang on so long to Skynet, because you want to hear the jokes of the week. All right, here we go. This is an oldie but goodie one right here. Why do bulls wear bells? Because their horns don't work. What's worse than a bull in a china shop? A hedgehog in a balloon factory. I used to be a bull rider, and I was doing really well. Until the guy from Walmart came out and unplugged the electricity. Where do mechanical bulls come from? They're raised on a wrench. Not a ranch, a wrench. Get it? Oh, okay, never mind. I used to work on a ranch that kept cows and bulls. But the pay was utterly terrible. See, I'm talking about cows and bulls, terrible. What do you call a bull when it goes through a door? Adorable. And the last one, what do you call 4 bullfighters standing in quicksand? Cuatro cinco. This is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 12, please. Aldebaran, which is Alpha Tauri, the brightest star in Taurus, and long considered to be one of the bull's eyes. The name Aldebaran is derived from the Arabic word which means the follower, supposedly from the fact that the star follows the Pleiades across the sky. Aldebaran is an orange giant star, type K5, with a diameter of 44 times that of the Sun. It's about 65 light years in distance and is about 150 times more luminous than our Sun. Aldebaran is the brightest star other than our sun, which can be occulted by the moon, and such occultations has been observed since ancient times. According to Burnham's Celestial Handbook, Edmund Halley studied the records of the occultation of Aldebaran that was observed in Athens in March of 509 AD. More than 1,000 years after that took place, Halley concluded that the event could not have occurred unless the position of Aldebaran had been several minutes of arc further north at the time. From a comparison of his positions with those reports in the ancient records, Halley found out about Sirius, Arcturus, and Aldebaran had measurably changed their position since ancient times. And in 1718, Halley announced the discovery of what we now call proper motion. Slide Master, slide number 13, please. The Pleiades star cluster, which is also known as M45, or also known as the Seven Sisters. The Seven Sisters is named from the mythological account of 7 daughters of Atlas, who was placed in the heavens to help them overcome the grief over the fate of their father, who had to support the worlds on his shoulder. Indeed, the brightest stars in the cluster are named after the Seven Sisters and their father Atlas and their mother. The Pleiades is one of the special class of objects that looks better in binoculars than in most telescopes. Of course, the Pleiades are easily visible with no optical aid at all. I've even seen the Pleiades from about 3 miles outside of downtown Dallas, so it must be bright, but that's when it's overhead. The nebulosity surrounding the stars is easily visible, but I find that higher powers, where only part of the cluster fills the field of view, makes it an easier see, at least for most people. In a 10-inch f5 Dob, you can see the entire cluster at about 20 power. But the dazzling light from the stars makes the nebulosity difficult at that time. Most people like viewing the Pleiades this way because they can see the whole cluster in a wide field binocular style view. You can even see many fainter stars, but your eyes will probably be dazzled by the nebulosity too much to see the nebulosity as well. However, an 8-inch f5 Dynamax Cassegrain telescope with about 40 power only shows part of the cluster, yet the nebulosity is noticeable, particularly around one of the stars. The entire cluster contains about 100 stars and spans a spherical region of space about 14 light years in diameter. It's only about 400 light years away. Slide Master, slide number 14, please. The Hyades, also known as Melope 25, the Hyades is a mythological, we're the half-sisters of Pleiades, makes sense, the daughters of Atlas and Aphia. I pronounced her name wrong. The stars of the Hyades were often associated with rainy and stormy weather in ancient times, and the name itself is derived from the Greek word for the meaning to rain. Like the Pleiades, the Hyades look better in binoculars than they do in most telescopes, even more than the Pleiades since they span a much larger area. Like the Pleiades, they are easily made out with the unaided eye, with the cluster and Aldebaran forming the distinctive V shape that marks the face of Taurus the bull. Aldebaran is not a member of the Hyades, but is actually a foreground object that's at 65 light years away. The Hyades is over twice as many stars as twice the distance with 151 light years away. Hyades form the second closest open star cluster to our solar system. The only known cluster that is closer is Ursa Major Moving Group, also known as Colander 285, of which most of the stars on the Big Dipper are part of. The core of Ursa Major Moving Group is about 80 light years away. Slide Master, slide number 15. M1, the first object in the famous Messier catalog, is the Crab Nebula, the remnant of a supernova that exploded on July 4th, the year 1054. Though almost 1,000 years have passed since the supernova exploded, the Crab Nebula is easily seen in binoculars and small telescopes. M1 is found in a line between Alneth and Zeta Tauri, the tips of the bull's horn. M1 lies on this line just 1 degree from Zeta. Binoculars simply show a small fuzzy patch, but even in a telescope of maybe only 3 inches, you can see the nebula with some basic lumpy oval outline like shown in some photographs. Of course, there's much more detail that can be visible in much larger telescopes. Slide master, slide number 16, please. NGC 1647, the Pirate Moon Cluster. Dave Hutchinson describes NGC 1647 as a nice open cluster of about 80 stars. It's easy to find since it's just 3 degrees away from Aldebaran, between the bull's horn as well. It stands out well in binoculars or a finder scope. Fills the low-powered field of view of a Dynamax telescope, which is an 8-inch telescope. Looking at about 40 power, it reminds you of looking at the Beehive cluster in Cancer. This is a nice, bright pair of stars at the southern edge of the cluster, with a fainter member of the pair being a distinct reddish-orange color. These 2 stars are probably foreground objects since they are much brighter than the cluster of the stars. This is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 17, please. Now there's a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Taurus the Bull. I've given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 75 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. So, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide master, slide number 18, and that is Ms. Carolyn's constellation of the week, Taurus the Bull. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on the deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal from them for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Next time I'll take a look at the Chisel and the Dove, 2 interesting constellations. This is KF5JHA singing it back toward Net Control 73, everyone.
Very good. Thank you, Chaz, for that information and the segments that you always do for Skynet, as well as taking a 5th Saturday whenever that occurs, which is occasionally. He is also Net Control that evening. Okay, let me go ahead and see if there are additional check-ins at this time. I'm checking Echolink. I think everybody is, everybody's already checked in there. I will take anyone over air who would like to join us this evening. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruise in Arlington.
Well, we picked up one. I got KI5KWG. That's Cruise over in Arlington. Welcome, Cruise. All right, next up is the space launches for this week. I get this information from Spaceflight Now launch schedule, which is spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. What a surprise, right? So I've got a few of them. There's always a busy schedule every month these days, starting with January 23rd, 24th, overnight. The Electron launch of the rocket named Virginia is for launch lovers. Yes, that's the name of the rocket. This will launch between 6 and 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the 23rd from LC-2 Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport, Wallops Island, Virginia. A Rocket Lab Electron launch vehicle will lift off with 3 satellites for Hawkeye 360, a radio frequency geospatial analytics provider. This will be the first Rocket Lab mission from the new launch pad in Virginia. Then we have a Falcon 9 launch on the Starlink 5-2 flight. This will be from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral in Florida. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. This will be the second launch of the new orbital shell for SpaceX's second-generation Starlink constellation called Starlink Gen 2. Well, that's new. The Falcon 9's first stage will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. January 24th, 25th will be the launch of IGS Radar 7. This will be from Launch Pad 1 at Tanegashima Space Center in Japan. The H-2A rocket, designated H-2A F-46, will launch an IGS Radar 7 radar reconnaissance satellite for Japan's information-gathering satellites for the Japanese government's Cabinet Satellite Intelligence Center. That's a long sentence. The H-2A rocket will fly in the 202 configuration with 2 strap-on solid rocket boosters. Then in late January, there'll be another Falcon 9 launch of Starlink 2-6 with another batch of satellites into a high-inclination orbit inclined 70 degrees to the equator. The Falcon 9's first stage will land on a drone ship in the Pacific Ocean. January 31st, Starlink 5-3, that'll launch from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. Another batch of Starlink Internet satellites, the third launch into the new orbital shell for SpaceX's second-generation Starlink constellation, Starlink Gen 2. Then finally, let me see, well, I've got 2 more I can do. The Falcon 9 will launch Amazonas Nexus. This will be from SLC-40 Cape Canaveral. The Nexus communication satellite for the Spanish company Hispasat. Amazonas Nexus will provide broadband connectivity to airplanes, ships, and other mobile users across the Americas, Greenland, and travel corridors across the Atlantic Ocean. The Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. All right, I guess I had more here than I thought. I'm going to give you 2 more, and that's it. February, there'll be an SSLV launch, Test Flight 2. This will be from Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, India. The SSLV will launch on its second orbital test flight following a failed inaugural launch attempt. And then finally, February 9th, there'll be a Progress 83P launch from Falconer Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Soyuz rocket will launch the 83rd Progress cargo delivery ship to the International Space Station. The rocket will fly in the Soyuz 2.1A configuration. All right, the next one is recent astronomical discoveries. This one I pulled. So let me set that up so I can at least show you something here. This comes from Science Daily. Astronomers find the most distant stars in our galaxy halfway to Andromeda. Astronomers have discovered over 200 distant variable stars known as RR Lyrae stars in the Milky Way's stellar halo. The most distance of these stars is more than 1 million light years from Earth, almost half the distance to our neighboring galaxy Andromeda, which is about 2.5 million light years away. The characteristic pulsations and brightnesses of RR Lyrae stars make them excellent standard candles for measuring galactic distances. These new observations allowed the researchers to trace the outer limits of the Milky Way's halo. This study is redefining what constitutes the outer limits of our galaxy, says Raja Guha Thakura, professor and chair of astronomy and astrophysics at UC Santa Cruz. Our galaxy and Andromeda are both so big there's hardly any space between the 2 galaxies. He explained that the stellar halo component of our galaxy is much bigger than the disk, which is about 100,000 light years across. Our solar system resides in one of the spiral arms of the disk. In the middle of the disk is the central bulge, and surrounding it is a halo, which contains the oldest stars in the galaxy and extends for hundreds of thousands of light years in every direction. The halo is the hardest part to study because the outer limits are so far away. The stars are very sparse compared to the high stellar densities of the disk and the bulge, but the halo is dominated by dark matter and actually contains most of the mass of the galaxy. Yuting Feng, a doctoral student working with Gua Kurta at UCSC, led the new study and is presenting their findings in 2 talks to the American Astronomical Society meeting in Seattle on January 9th and 11th. According to Feng, previous modeling studies have calculated that stellar halo should extend to around 300 kiloparsecs, or 1 million light years, from the galactic center. Astronomers measure galactic distances in kiloparsecs, one equaling 3,260 light years. 208 RR Lyrae stars detected by Feng and his colleagues ranged in distance from 20 to 320 kiloparsecs. We were able to use these variable stars as reliable tracers to point down the distances, Feng said. Our observations confirm the theoretical estimates of the size of the halo, so that it's an important result. And this is KE5ICX, and this is Skynet. The findings are based on data from the Next Generation Virgo Cluster Survey, NGVS, a program using the Canadian-French Hawaii telescope, CFHT, to study a cluster of galaxies well beyond the Milky Way. The survey was not designed to detect RR Lyrae stars, so the researchers had to dig them out of the data set. The Virgo cluster is a large cluster of galaxies that includes a large elliptical galaxy M87. To get a deep exposure of the galaxy and the galaxies around it, the telescope also captured foreground stars in the same field, so the data we used are sort of a byproduct of that study. According to him, the excellent quality of NGVS data enabled the team to obtain the most reliable and precise characterization of RR Lyrae at these distances. The RR Lyrae are old stars with very specific physical properties and can cause them to expand and contract in a regularly repeating cycle. The way their brightnesses varies looks like an EKG. They're like the heartbeats of the galaxy, so the brightness goes up quickly and then comes down slowly. The cycle repeats perfectly with this very characteristic shape. In addition, if you measure their average brightness, it is the same from star to star. This combination is fantastic for studying the structure of the galaxy. The sky is full of stars, some brighter than others, but a star may look bright because it is very luminous or because it is very close, and it can be hard to tell the difference. Astronomers can identify an RR Lyrae star from its characteristic pulsations and use its observed brightness to calculate how far away it is. The procedures are not simple, however. More distant objects can be quasars that can masquerade as RR Lyrae stars. Only astronomers know how painful it is to get reliable tracers of these distances, Feng said. This robust sample of distant RR Lyrae stars gives us a very powerful tool for studying the halo and testing our current models of size and mass of our galaxy. This study is based on observations obtained from MEGAPRIME MEGACAM and a joint project of CFHT and the CEAIRFU, they said that, not me, at the Canadian-French Hawaii Telescope, CFHT, which is operated by the National Research Council, NRC, of Canada and the Institute of National des Services de l'Univers of Central National de la Recherche Scientifique, CNRS of France, and the University of Hawaii. That was a lot. Oh, and I had the wrong slide up all that whole time. Well, it doesn't matter. You just see me running out of breath. Okay, let's see here. I've got 7 more minutes here, and the next section is mine. We have the International Space Station. Let's see. These are satellite passages over the next couple of days. I have several. January, I'm going to skip January 29th. I'm going to go to January I'm sorry, 28th. I'm going to go to January 29th. This one is minus 1.7 magnitude at 1835. It'll reach its highest point at 44 degrees at 1838, and it'll fall to the east at 1841. On January 30th, there'll be a minus 1.3 magnitude at 1913, reaches its highest point in the west-northwest at 48 degrees at 1916, and it'll fall at 1917 to the south-southeast. We also have January 30th. This one will be minus 1.3 magnitude at 1913. The west-northwest will reach its highest point at 1960 and 48 degrees, and fall to the south-southeast, I should say, at 1917. Next is the Hubble Space Telescope on January 26th. We've got a good pass. This will be 1.6 magnitude at 6:53. It'll reach its highest point of the west-southwest at 6:56, and then it will fall to the south at 1700 even. We also have on January 27th the second pass, 1.6 magnitude at 6:40 a.m. It'll reach its highest point at 6:43 at 42 degrees, and fall to the southeast at 6:47. And then finally, on the 28th, there are also two passes. The better one is 1.6 magnitude at 6:27 out of the west-southwest. It'll reach its highest point at 6:30 at 40 degrees to the south, and it'll fall at 6:34 to the east-southeast. All this information is available on heavensabove.com. Just plug in your longitude and latitude, and you will find what you need to find as far as satellites, including satellites such as amateur radio satellites and any of the other information without having to load Keplers, which is pretty cool. Okay, that's it there. I'll take a final round of check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, I'm looking, there's a lot of chat going on YouTube, of all places. Philip and John and Cruz are all there. I guess they ran over there to go ahead and talk, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, I'll take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. Okay, well, it's been a quiet evening. What a surprise. This is now time for the astronomical Q&A. If you have a question, I'm sure somebody has the answer, probably not me, although I can make up answers if you like. I'm very good at that. So does anyone have any questions they would like to ask of astronomical nature or of space interest? Please come to your call now. Well, apparently I bored everyone to death, so let's go ahead and close it out. Tonight we had 24 check-ins, including myself. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration, because on this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations or presenters, as Virginia did this evening, and all the other for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and on Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to the club website, w5fc.org, at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, and I'll be closing the net at 22:28 local time and returning the repeater for normal amateur use. We will be back to go ahead and discuss tonight's movie, Robot and Frank, from 2012, 10 years ago, in about 5 minutes. So come back here in 5 minutes, and we will begin that net. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to turn the repeater to normal use for a few minutes. With KE5ICX, I'm clear for now.
Ham Fixin's Net, first and third Monday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, well, it's me again. So if anybody wants to be net control, you are welcome to. Hey, does anybody want to be net control for Afterglow Movie Net? Come with your call now. Man, you guys are tough. All right, well, I'll do it. At least I get to wait and listen to all your comments and tell you you're all wet once you're done. Even if they're good comments, it's possible. So what you're going to listen to now, or be an active participant of, is the Afterglow Movie Net. We do this every Saturday night, discuss a movie that has been pre-assigned. There's a website where you can get the information, find out what the movie is. In case you cannot stay awake to the end of this net, find out what the next movie is for next week. And that is Afterglow Movie. That's 2 words, Afterglow and Movie, on the Facebook page. Go there and you will find under Guide, just click on the Guide tab, and you'll find all of the movies that are currently scheduled, and including some that have not been scheduled. You can go ahead and preview them there. Or if you want to get ahead of the game and see a couple of movies before actually discussing them, you can do that as well. Tonight, if you don't like Facebook, and some people do not, and I know the reasons why, and I don't disagree, then just send an email to me, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray KE5ICX at yahoo.com, and see you want to be added to the list. And I will send out, usually sometime on Sunday, usually the morning, what next week's movie is and a little synopsis. Tonight's movie is called Robot and Frank, and here's a little description. I'll tell you what it is, and then after that, you'll get a chance to check in and discuss the movie, and I'll explain how that works once we get there. But first, let me read about the film. This is from Wikipedia. Robot and Frank is a 2012 American science fiction comedy drama film directed by Jake Schreier from a screenplay by Crystal Ford, and it stars Frank Langella, Susan Sarandon, yes, that's Susan Sarandon, Peter Sarsgaard, James Marsden, and Liv Taylor. The movie was the first feature film for both Schreier and Ford and received critical acclaim for its writing, production, and acting. It won the Alfred P. Sloan Prize and the 2012 Sundance Film Festival, tying with the Kashmiri film Valley of Saints by Musha Saeed. The robot was created by Tony Gardner's special effects company, Alterian Incorporated. Here's the plot. Set in the near future, an aging ex-convict and thief, Frank Weld, lives alone and suffers from increasingly severe mental deterioration and dementia. Frank's son Hunter, an attorney with a family of his own, grows tired of making weekly visits to his father's home without his kids, but is reluctant to put his father into a full care, including a fixed time care, so he purchased a robot companion, which is programmed to provide Frank with therapeutic care, including a fixed daily routine and cognitive-enhancing activities like gardening. Initially wary of the robot's presence in his life, Frank warms up to his new companion when he realizes the robot is not programmed to distinguish between legal recreational activities and criminal ones, and can assist him in lock-picking. Together, the two commit a heist in order to win the affection of the local librarian, Jennifer, and they steal an antique copy of Don Quixote from the library, which is being renovated and turned into a community center in the wake of declining interest in print material. In the meantime, Frank's daughter, Madison, who is away on a philanthropic trip to Turkmenistan, learns of the robot and returns to convince her father to get rid of the machine, which he finds ethically objectionable. Frank insists on keeping the robot, and they commit one last heist, stealing jewels from Jake, a rich young developer at the head of the library renovation project. The police became involved and began to question and monitor Frank, who maintains his innocence, feigning deathly illness so that Hunter will return to see him. In order to cover his tracks, Frank is faced with the decision of whether to wipe the memory of his robot, even as his own memory rapidly deteriorates. Frank goes to the library where he discovers that Jennifer is his ex-wife, which he had forgotten. He then returns home where the robot convinces him to wipe its holographic memory. It argues that it is not a real person and its sole reason for existence is to help Frank, which he can do best by helping him avoid jail. Frank then moves into a full-time care facility to help him cope with his dementia. During a visit from his family, he slips Hunter a note implying that the jewels are hidden under the tomato plants in the garden that the robot made. All right, it is now time for check-ins. I will take check-ins this way. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name. You can include where you're transmitting from if you'd like, but I would like to know if you saw this movie. Even if you didn't, it's perfectly okay to check in. We'll ask you if you think this is a good movie that you would want to see, or if it's similar to something you've seen in the past, and maybe discuss that one. We've done that because we'd like participation. So please now come with your call sign, phonetically, your name, and did you see Robot and Frank? Here we go.
This is N5BB. Bill in Irving. Yes, I saw this movie.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony, over here in the eastern part of Dallas. I've seen part of the movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, 0 Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen this movie.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, cruise in Arlington. Yes, I saw the film. Where is everybody?
All right, let me get those check-ins, and I'll tell you what I think happened. We've got N5BB, Bill in Irving. Yes, he saw the movie. NT5TM, Tony in East Dallas. Yes, he saw the movie. Kind of. KB5SOK, that's Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, he saw the movie. And KI5KWG, Cruz in Arlington. Yes, he saw the movie. So I'm thinking what might have happened is everybody went to the Cowtown Hamfest and they're tired and they've gone to bed. That's my best guess, but there could also be folks who have not yet checked in and are listening. If you're one of those, you need to check in now. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see Robot and Frank, our movie of the week? Please come now. Okay, well, Brenda's on her Pioneer Woman adventure somewhere near Fredericksburg, so she's not going to be checking in this evening. So she won't be here. But let's go ahead and get started, and we'll go to when we get to the bottom of the list. Maybe we can coax some folks to come on board. So we'll go ahead and start at the top with Bill, N5BB. First thing we discuss is plot. What did you think about the plot for Robot and Frank from KE5ICX?
Hi, Tom. This is N5BB. And by the way, I'd leave my house at about 7 a.m. this morning to pick up Tom Schessler in Virginia and go to Cowtown. So, yes, I know about being tired because you were at Cowtown. I was there all day long until 3. Anyway, yes, I saw the movie. I liked it. I liked it. I liked the plot. There were a few things that I thought were a little overly stereotypical about the plot. One of them is the guy that Frank stole the jewels from. They just kind of painted him into be a nasty character. He had a bad attitude. He seemed. Where did his money come from? It wasn't really. He was some kind of consultant. And Frank was suggesting that he might have had ill-gotten gains. We don't know that, but because Frank was kind of losing it. But the fact that they painted him as an evil guy was kind of over the top a little bit. The other thing is the sheriff was some of this may be characterization, but I'll just say the sheriff was overly kind of not dressed very well, kind of looked like a country hick, didn't seem perfectly professional. I didn't understand that exactly. Seemed to be a little bit, I don't know. Something about the way they wrote that was a little bit too stereotypical for me. The rest of it, I think, was reasonably good. Science fiction plot. The movie looked to me just like those Sony robots. Evidently they weren't, but they sure looked like it to me. I'm trying to think what else I can say here for plot. I was a little confused near the end. I mean, they kind of were pretty quick at showing you that the Susan Sarandon character was actually his wife, and I wasn't sure in parts of it if he was, dealing with his son. Did he really forget that his son wasn't at college right now, or was that made up? Did he invent that just to kind of bug his son? I don't know. Seemed like maybe he really did forget. But so there were a couple of places in the movie where it was kind of vague whether he was really remembering things or not. But I guess I like the concept and the plot. In fact, BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. Writing some notes for my part there. Thank you. Next up is NT5TM. Tony, you saw part of it. What did you think of Robot and Frank, of what you saw from KE5ICX?
Well, I saw enough to be interested. Aaron was watching it with me. I did not go to Cowtown Ham Fest, but it's been a long, strange day for, various reasons here at home. Then people like you and Virginia and Chaz had to go work hard on Skynet, so I couldn't just tune Skynet out when there were good presentations going on, so I fell even further behind in the movie there. But that's okay. I'll finish it off tomorrow. And I did see enough to be intrigued. I was particularly impressed by the realism of the dementia as a plot device so far in the first 37 minutes of the movie. I had a grandparent who had very serious dementia, and she could be just like that. 1 minute she would know who I was and where I went to school and how old I was and what I was studying and that I played in the orchestra. And then a couple of minutes later, she might think I was my Uncle Jim. Just the in and out, the high functioning, low functioning. I thought they were capturing that in a way that seemed really familiar to me. A little, it takes more than 2 minutes, of course, but it really felt very natural. And I thought the plot was advancing in a really intriguing way with, hey, I kind of, I remember who I am at my core, and I'm kind of a clever, he said I'm a second story man. He's a very senior, very competent sort of burglar, and so he's forgotten a lot of things, but he's sure that's his core skill set, just like I love reading books. And I loved his attachment to the library, because, I might forget a lot of things, but I want to go back to where I was learning when I was a little kid. You must be able to find out everything at the library. I love that he found that to be such an important place. So I am very much interested in finishing the movie. I'm very happy that we ran into this because I'd never heard of it before. I found the plot to be of a good pace and intriguing realism, and I'm very interested in finishing it. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony, and I hope you do. People have, anytime you watch any film and it gets a great setup, which this one does, the ending is, your author, your director, the people who created the movie, in our case, ends up, they don't, they sometimes paint themselves in a corner, so some people feel that the ending was very satisfying, others not so much, but your mileage will vary. Next up is Sean, KB5SOK. Sean, your thoughts on the plot for Robot and Frank from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. I enjoyed this movie as well. And as Tony touched on, I felt that that was my first dimension felt very real. Alzheimer's is a horrible thing, and I do think it's it's painful to watch somebody go through it if you know somebody's been through it, and it's one of those things that if it ever happens to you, I can't imagine it'd be a rough way to go, not know what's going on one minute and the next minute be okay, then obviously losing your independence. So I definitely see what was driving this film. And they are, as we all know, they are working on, assisted living robots. They've already done some experimentation now with people with Alzheimer's, working with like those little handheld animated bears that can react to stuff and react to their comments and touch, and they've actually had some success with it. And then also too, keeping the mind active does seem to slow the process down. So I felt like they did their research in this movie, and it felt like it was all things that made sense, gave it more realism. Down the road, I could definitely see, we've got pretty advanced robots now, and the biggest holdup is still just power. Just keep the thing powered up. They've already got the technology for walking around, and I think the AI is getting there, and so the whole thing felt pretty realistic. And like I said, the whole dimension thing felt real, so obviously that was a big focus of this movie. Also, too, obviously showing some of the future of what could be done. And then also, too, as mentioned about the library, we are seeing those disappear, and we know even our own local libraries are scanning, books in, and because people just aren't going into the library anymore, and they're starting to reuse those buildings for other things. So, yeah, it felt like a very realistic plot. It did have a decent flow, I think 90% of the time. There was one section I felt it got a little slow, but it definitely didn't bother me because it did flow pretty nicely. I thought the twist at the end, with that being his wife, was an interesting one. And normally I see them things coming a mile away, but I actually didn't catch that. So it was kind of a nice twist. And then, I see what you're saying there, Tom, at the ending, because I have mixed feelings at the very ending. It was kind of gratifying that he got away with it, but then I was, to see that he ended up in a home, it did kind of hit in a place that it's the last place I think I'd ever would want to end up, because I very much enjoy my independence of someone that several years back that spent an extent in the hospital due to an illness, and relied on others for about 9 to 10 months to live basically, and there's no greater feeling when I was able to get back on my own again and be independent again. And so yeah, I really felt for the guy at the very end. You know, I was hoping he'd get away with it and still, you know, be able to continue on with the robot. But yeah, but also another side of this movie, it also showed too that, you know, it's easy to feel like, you know, they touched on several times that he almost felt this robot was alive. And obviously they discussed that very heavily in this. The robot kept telling him that he wasn't alive. But yet, you know, Frank kept asking, well, you do you want to lose yourself if I wipe your memory? But yet, that was obviously a big focus. So it's easy to become attached to things that, especially that can react to us. And, you know, so it's definitely going to be also a thing in the future. You know, people are going to have feelings for these robots, especially if they can interact with you. You know, so they touched on a lot of interesting points here, which I thought was really interesting, the way they twinkled them together. And then, yeah, as far as the bad guy there, or quote-unquote bad guy taking over the library, I might disagree with Bill on that a little bit. I think Frank maybe did have an idea, obviously him being a criminal himself. He's probably very used to recognizing things that just don't quite look right, and I think that's what he felt like. May or may not have been true. You know, but that was interesting. Now, I do agree on the part of the police officer, which we'll get more into in characterization. That whole thing didn't feel right. That you know, basically, it seemed like the rich guy was pretty much telling the officer what to do, and he was doing it just because he's a rich guy. So, you know, which could happen. And, you know, we know it probably does. But yeah, that didn't seem like a legit investigation there. But other than that, everything felt really good in this movie, and I enjoyed it a lot. So yeah, back to net. This is KB.
All right, very good analysis. I like that, Sean. Next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, what'd you think about the plot for Robot and Frank from 2012?
KI5KWG. Never heard of this film, and don't know why. Liked it very, very much. I was hooked into it. Very few minutes into it. Give me a second to reset here. There. I had two radios on and they're loud. The plot surprised me a couple of times. At the very beginning, I really thought what we were going to see is the robot being the moral influence and sort of guiding the conscience of Frank. It was the inverse of that. I also thought much later in the film that the yuppie couple were going to be exposed to be villains, and they hinted at that, but they didn't really develop that as I was expecting it to be. And so where the twist came in that I also really liked was, as been mentioned I think by everybody, is finding out that the redhead girl in the library was the redhead girl of his past and his ex-wife. I thought that was kind of a fun thing to have done with it. So basically, I really enjoyed this film. My main disappointment is that it wasn't going to be much to be ripping apart on it, I don't think. But we'll see how we do on the next sections here. I think that's what I've got. I'll point out that rooting for bad guys is always an interesting thing to do in a story. We have to get you rooting for the bad guys. And I always kind of feel awkward about that. But K-Mutiny being an absolute favorite story of mine. So less so here, but that's interesting. I'd like to dive into that sometime. KI5KWG, back to net.
And thank you, Cruz, on those comments. By the way, K-Mutiny is one of my favorites, too. I even have the soundtrack to the motion picture, so I know all the music, too. Very favorite of mine. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and ask if there's additional check-ins before I give my 2 cents. If you'd like to join us this evening, we're talking about Robot and Frank, a 2012 science fiction film or near-future film that actually everybody so far likes. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and did you see the film? And if you didn't, that's okay, too. We'll just call on you and see if you would like to see it. So any additional check-ins, please come now.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J. near Weber, I did see the go.
Very good. I figured you probably were just plain old tired from being at Cowtown today, but I'm glad you're here, Jay, and I see you popped up on Echolink. So go ahead. What are your thoughts on the plot for this film from KE5ICX?
KQ5BCW here. I actually tried checking in by radio. I don't know if the signal would have made it to the repeater or not, but apparently I did double with somebody, and then I was too tired to be listening when the seconds were. So anyway, I am tired. But the plot, I watched it just before the net, and I liked the film. The pacing was good. I don't know. I mean, there's a little bit of aspect about how good Frank was, which kind of, I thought, stretched belief a little bit. But I don't think it wasn't, tried to be super accurate there. I tend to think of it more metaphorically. Yes, this is a guy that was skilled at his line of work, let's call it, and when he was in, it really did. I've had parents that had issues. Won't get into details, but I actually hung out at the home a lot, and helped. Anyway, so I did get to receive people being sharp as a tack 1 minute, and then kind of slowly like, what's going on here? And so I thought it was a very good depiction of that. And the whole the whole thing with the presumable love interest being actual his ex-wife. That it's a kind of a twist I would normally think I would hate, but it was done so well. I have to agree. I feel like it was done well enough that it's like, it was great. I am so rambly right now, but I guess the one other thing I really wanted to comment on that I kind of hated about, but it makes sense in a sense that of human life being a kind of a thing that one would want to protect and all, but then you've got, not like, the in between, how do you put this? There's wiping that robot's memory. I mean, that's still something unique to this world. So you're not killing someone by doing that, but still, you are obliterating something unique and kind of at least important to him, to Frank, from the world. So I mean, I still like how the story flowed and how the robot basically gave himself up for the human, which is a very interesting moral study there. But in a weird kind of twisted sense, in that the robots didn't really have an identity to begin with and all that. But I like this film. It made me think a lot, and I'm glad it was on our list. KG5BGW.
Okie doke. Thank you, Jay. I guess I will make my comments. Mine, this one kind of hit me close. Some of you know, I lost my father last year in March, and before his death, he had dementia, and it's a tough thing to watch, particularly when he doesn't, in this case, didn't recognize me. Probably he didn't know my name for the last 5 years of his life, and in the last couple of years, he really didn't know who I was. He pretended he did, but he really did not. His parents lived down in Corpus. My mother's still around, and now she is suffering from dementia, and that's really tough, particularly as a family member. And my 2022 was, let's put it this way, I don't want another 2022 like I went through. So having family members that provide support would be nice, but that wasn't in the cards because of what happened. But one of the things that's interesting is that, and I realized this, I just came back from visiting my mom this week. I think got back Wednesday, and so this is very, very fresh on my mind. And when talking to her, she seemed very cognizant and in control of what was going on. She seemed to know specific things that had to do, particularly with my dad's death, and probate, and some of the things that go along with that. She seemed to be on top of it, and I told her as much, and she thanked me for it. I asked her a few questions about things that I thought she had done, and she said, yes, I took care of it. And I went back, and I talked to a lawyer that was in charge of the probate. No, she's not done any of this. And I realized that she was either really believed it or was lying to me, but I think she thought she did it and had not. And so it threw into question just how, accurate the information was she was providing me. And I saw that in the film. There was some mention here that, what does Frank know and how does he know it and is he faking it? And the answer is, it depends. He may actually have felt that he had, that everything was under control, or he said that he was, they said, well, you're just making it up. Maybe not to Frank. Maybe he isn't making it up. It just isn't true. Those things come into play. Another thing that really struck me and plays into this as well is that when he had the robot and it was available, it was working on his mind, that he was actually interacting and reacting with the robot. And you could see his life coming back, things that he knew, long-term memory, but that suddenly he could manipulate this robot and do some really fascinating things. He's going back and doing what he knows best, ripping people off and heists and things like that. He explains the rules and how it works, and the robot goes, okay, fine, I don't have any ethics to involve with that, so I'm going to go ahead and do what you say. I just thought that was really fascinating, that interaction that just brought him back. And I thought this movie was made 11 years ago, and that this AI stuff was still kind of on the horizon. Let me reset. And it actually is possible to have these kind of interactions, like today. And I digress a little bit because I'm kind of comparing and contrasting with what's happened over the last few days and what this movie was trying to say. But I went to lunch. I played hooky. I didn't go out to Cowtown. I had a couple of things that I had to take care of first. and I just didn't make it. But in any case, I went and had lunch with a friend of mine and went to a restaurant that I'd never been to before, and I said, Siri, please find directions to and the name of the restaurant. And it came back, and in a very natural voice, it tells me exactly where it is. Would you like directions? Sure, I'd like directions. And it gives me directions on exactly where it is, including exactly where it was in a strip shopping center. It told me exactly where in the shopping center it was and on what side, and pull in and park now. I'm thinking, this is really interesting, because if you have that artificial intelligence, or perhaps inside of a robot or an android or whatever you've got, and having the interaction like Frank had with the robot, that this is actually going to help offset or prevent dementia in the future for us, when we get to that age, hopefully, that we have these aids that will help us maintain our thought, our higher functioning learning and capabilities by challenging us. I think that's a really fascinating thing. And how would that work out? What is the ethics to that? I want to do Siri, tell me where there's a bank a large bank, and when does it close, which is innocuous, but if you're going to case the joint or knock it over, wouldn't that, Siri is inadvertently helping along the way. So I don't know, would you put some sort of ethical protocols into place, and how would it work, and would it call the police, and what about privacy? How does privacy play into it? Maybe I have dementia and I say I want to knock over a gas station, but I really don't have that capability. Would AI interpret that as a false flag, that an innocuous thing? The more I think about these things, the more I really think that this is really a fascinating movie that had a plot and an idea, but when you think about it on its own terms, it really brings up a lot of really, really interesting ethical and moral questions. And I think that was one of the things I liked about the film. I think I had those on the notes. Somebody mentioned it looked like the Sony robot. I agree. I don't know if the Sony robot came out. I think it may have come out around that time, and it certainly had that look. And if it did, I suspect they probably cribbed from it. Or maybe Sony cribbed from this movie. Who knows? Depends on who had the idea first, I guess. But very, very interesting. I'm going to defer on the characterization because I think that has a lot to do with this as well. But I wanted to mention those comments because this film really hit me. It was a real fascinating thing, and it made me think more deeply about all the things that are going on in my own life with my family and how that all works out. Okay, well, let's go to the top of the list, and tonight we're talking about Robot and Frank from 2012, kind of an art house film. It won several awards, by the way, for for its portrayal and script and all of that. So we're going to go ahead and continue with characterization and acting on this film. And we'll begin with Bill, N5BB. Bill, what do you think about characterization and acting in this movie from KE5ICX?
Okay, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. By the way, although this film, evidently, I don't think Sony had anything to do with creating the film, it was picked up and distributed by Sony. So it became a Sony film. But, so that's kind of interesting. With respect to the essentially therapy in AI, well, guess what? This is very timely. 2 days ago, on Thursday, National Public Radio, I was listening to an NPR spot about this exact topic. Here's you can just do a web search for NPR therapy by chatbot. The promise and challenges in using AI for mental health. And they specifically talk about a product which you can go and use it for free if no human is involved, just the chatbot. And the name of the product is WYSA, WYSA. Go look it up. It's WYSA.com. WYSA has held over 500 million conversations with more than 5 million people about their mental health across 95 countries. So anyway, it's not a robot, but it is something you can communicate with, like you're talking to a person. And I thought it was very interesting listening to the NPR spot. And so you might look that up. WYSA, WYSA. And from NPR, I listened to it on KERA on January the 19th. The Health News Therapy by Chatbot. Go look it up. Anyway, so let's see. Characterization and acting and things. Of course, this was mainly Frank Langella as Frank, the main character. And I think he did a great job acting. I think most of the actors did. I'll comment about some of them, but I think most of them did a great job on this. And I think that it was good casting. He can have a very calm, a little bit of a nearly a vacant look. I mean, his style, his ability to have that kind of look where he's kind of lost in another world is part of his style, and I think it worked in this. But he can also have, serious emotions. He can be angry and everything. So I think he had this range of emotions that was, reasonably appropriate for this. And so I think that was a great job. Something else that added to it, you may not have noticed, is he's a pretty big guy. And it kind of added something, I think, to the movie, him being a little bit intimidating and much bigger than, than the robot and these other people. And you could kind of believe that he was somebody who had, gone to prison and been the second-story guy. He kind of looked like he could do it, physically. And he appeared to be very smart when you really looked at him pulling out the drawing, the plans, and talking about how you got around the security systems. So I think he did a great job on that, and I think the characterization was great on there. People earlier talking about dementia in general, it touches a lot of families. Currently, I have 2 aunts that have severe dementia, pretty much Alzheimer's. My mom, their father, my mom's father, my grandfather, died of Alzheimer's, and in Austin, and I visited him a number of times when he was in the Alzheimer's care facility near the end. And in one of the visits, maybe the last visit, he was sitting down looking at me, talking to me. He knew who I was. He remembered who I was. And he was looking at me, talking to me, and we were having a little conversation. And then something distracted my grandfather. He looked over at the noise for a few seconds. He looked back at me, and he says, "Oh, Bill, did you just get here?" So in that case, he had absolutely zero short-term memory. If he was looking at me, he could remember it. I tried playing some dominoes with him. He was looking at the dominoes. He could think about it, but he'd look away and look at him. He completely forgot he was even playing dominoes. Now, in this movie, the character did not have that kind of short-term memory, severe Alzheimer's kind of thing. And so I think, of course, trying to diagnose somebody in a movie is kind of a this is kind of stupid for me to try this, but it seemed to me like he may have had some other dementia. My mom passed away from Parkinson's, which led to frontal temporal dementia, which is different. And some of his aspects, which involve emotional things and emotional control, kind of seem to me like a little bit more similar to FTD, which is sometimes called the forgotten dementia. A lot of people just think that all dementia is Alzheimer's. It's not. That's just one type of dementia, and frontal temporal dementia and some other dementias are also reasonably common. This is in 5BB. But anyway, it was kind of interesting, the fact that he could remember so well all of his things associated with being a criminal, being a burglar and everything, but he could not remember his own wife. But that's quite possible. My grandfather, at his, I think it was his 80th birthday party, when my mom and her sisters were kind of, they couldn't be convinced he had dementia. They thought, oh, he's just getting old. My grandfather, at his own birthday party, was talking about one of my cousins being married to an ex-mayor of Austin, and she was not. She was married to a Presbyterian minister. So he was mixing up family members directly. And that's what Frank did in this movie. He mixed up the librarian thinking she was a friend when he was his ex-wife. So it was kind of interesting. She would not allow him into her office where she had all those photos until that very last time. And I don't know exactly why. Maybe it was because she didn't want it to trigger what it did trigger. I don't really know. That wasn't explained very well. Is why she was not really allowing him in that room to see those pictures. But that's her personal reasons. And maybe this is why she, I guess, divorced him or separated from him. Is maybe that was I don't know. We don't know. We don't know how long ago they separated. It was at least 30 years. So maybe it was even when he went in prison. That may have been what split them up. I don't know. That wasn't explained too well. Anyway, I thought her character as librarian was done very well by Susan Sarandon. I thought she played it well, acted it well, and it was a sympathetic character, and I think that was written just fine, characterization. The son and daughter were both of them were over the top. To me, they went a little bit extreme there. But to tell you the truth, those characters were believable. I mean, I've got family members, and I've seen other people that have similar kinds of, reactions to things, and family members and situations and things, and so I could believe that too. The robot characterization, I think, was actually believable. This is N5BB. I heard some other kind of weird idea there. But I think that was believable and played well. By the way, if you look up some information about the movie, the original actress that was playing in the robot costume was got too hot, and they actually for some scenes had to use a different actor because it was just too difficult to do. It overheated, and the costume was evidently very hot. But I thought that was done well. I don't think it was overdone. I thought the dialogue was reasonable. It was kind of interesting that the robot wasn't programmed to not do illegal things, but that may be kind of hard to do, and it may be difficult. There may be, side effects of that. So that wasn't completely unbelievable. Again, I didn't like the sheriff character, really, and I didn't really like the couple that were the people with the jewels and everything. I thought that was done too much over the top. I thought I don't think they had to write those characters and characterize them so much over the top. They could have just been regular people, and it would have still been an interesting movie. They didn't have to make them villains in 5BB. So I didn't dislike, I guess, what they did. I just thought it was unnecessary. And there really wasn't really anybody else in the movie, so I guess that's all the characterization I can do. In 5BB, thank you.
All right, thank you, Bill. Thank you for that analysis. Next up is Tony, NT5TM. Tony, what are your thoughts on characterization for Robot and Frank from 2012 from KE5 ICS?
Well, don't go get dessert. My comments will be much shorter. I think N5BB watched the movie in full, unlike me, and thought about it very fully. And so I don't have a whole lot to add. I would say that I found the characters intriguing. They made me want to watch more. I am a little less optimistic about the state of AI. Whenever I interact with a chatbot, it offers me stupid suggestions that are only slightly better than rebooting my computer. I am, yes, I remember the Eliza from way back when. I had a fight with my mother today. Really? Tell me more about your mother. You can write very simple things using, old Fortran code, and you can still write very simple things now. But I have just yet to receive anything other than frustration in my life from chatbots or Google Assistants or the stupid Bixby thing that Samsung puts on our Samsung phones that we have in the house. They all just seem so unbelievably stupid that, I don't know. I don't have a fun robot story. I don't have a lot of faith in AI becoming genuinely useful. I hope it will, maybe, but it hasn't yet. Isaac Asimov was one of my favorite science fiction writers, well, still is, although he's no longer alive. He got one thing spectacularly wrong. In his world, it was very easy for robots to run around and pick up things and manipulate objects, but they couldn't talk. Ironically, it turns out in the real world that talking, at least to the extent of spewing out, nonsense that sort of makes sense, is very easy. But moving through a complex world without smashing into a concrete barrier or cracking, 4 eggs over the head of the cat, moving objects around the world turns out to be very difficult. So that was to me, the biggest character weakness in the movie. Was I just don't see robots able to do vague things like, hey, tidy up and cook us something. And that would imply, like, putting things away and knowing what they were and like, recognizing the food in the refrigerator. So I'm skeptical of AI very deeply. I think perhaps artificial stupidity or artificial inanity is about all we can hope for right now. But I did find the characters intriguing and promising, and they made me want to watch more about the movie so that I could learn more about them. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. There may be some debate there, but I see where you're going with it, and I kind of agree. Next up is Sean, KB5SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization and the acting in Robot and Frank.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Hopefully I don't repeat too much of what's already been said. For some reason, the repeater's dropping pretty hard on me out here for some reason. Not normal for it, but so I heard part of it and attempted to use Echolink, but I'll digress. From what I heard, I think Bill covered it really well, actually. Nice job, Bill. He really went in deep on the characters there, and I really agree with everything you really said there. I think Frank did an excellent job, or the guy who played Frank. I felt that he nailed it. My guess is he must either knew somebody like that or done some research. I think Susan Sarandon did a good job as the wife, and the kids were, I kind of get the son, kind of being realistic, because he felt that he was abandoned as a kid, because his dad chose, to do crime instead of spend time with his family. Then obviously ended up in jail, so he obviously had a lot of, built up anger, and, then obviously there at the end when the father kind of used him, and he realized the father wasn't being sincere. Of course, obviously, sure that would hurt, and kind of, it probably would be very upsetting, but at the same time, obviously, he still wanted his father to be okay. So yeah, it might have been a little overplayed. I agree with that, but all in all, I think it was okay. And then the daughter, Liv Taylor, is kind of the kind of character she plays a lot, so I kind of felt that was okay too. But yeah, I really think the two winners was obviously in this character who played Frank, and then I think Susan Sarandon played her part very well as well. I too wasn't crazy about the cop at all, but once again, he just did what was written, so not really on the actor. And then yeah, the rich couple, yeah, that did seem over the top for them a little bit, but as you know, sometimes money does that to people. They get eccentric, and they get upset when they don't get their way. I think the biggest part was just when he threw him out of the library. That part didn't make a whole lot of sense. Even though, why did he instantly jump to the conclusion that Frank had done it? But either way, it wasn't my two favorite characters there. But all in all, I do think the movie was very well acted, very well done. And I'm surprised the movie hasn't gotten more attention. I see why it won awards, and I didn't know anything about this film either until Tom brought it up last week, and then I watched it this week. So yeah, it was overall a real good film. So yeah, back to net. This is KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, what do you think of the characterization and/or acting? You can cover both from KE5I6.
KI5KWG. I agree with all the above. I have notes here that didn't get addressed, so I'll just stick to these. That Frank was excellent, of course, but the robot character, really interesting to me. We have this self-sacrifice, and it came so easily. He had absolutely no sense of self, and you kind of worked that in with the Asimov's laws of robotics, and which they didn't mention, but that was interesting on how they did it, because the robot is sacrificing what we see as itself by having it scrubbed, and yet it has no morality. And I thought, well, that's an interesting combination. Is it's self-sacrificing for the good of another, yet has no apparent morality, no programming as to what right and wrong might be. We can do that with laws and theft and stuff. So anyway, I almost want more of a story, or a second story, delving more into that. The other note that hadn't been mentioned is I thought Susan Sarandon had a rather small character, not fully developed. It was an important character for the plot, I think, but what I think is interesting is she just let it be that small character. It didn't seem like she was trying to become bigger in the film than she was, and I think she should get credit for that. That was pretty good. I liked all the characters. I thought they all did well, and the sheriff in Civies was kind of unusual too. I think we all caught something. You're trying to portray the guy as a sheriff and not have him dress or look or act like a sheriff was a little unusual, and I'm not sure what that was about. It seems puzzling more than it kind of takes you out of the story briefly. But otherwise, I thought really well acted, especially Frank. KI5, KWG, back to net.
Very good. Thank you, Cruz. And yeah, I guess we're kind of, because there's only a few characters, we're kind of retreading, but that's okay. Next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, your thoughts on characterization and or the acting of Robot and Frank from 2012?
This is Kill Golf Robinson Whiskey. I don't know. I think you guys have kind of covered it. I will also agree with Tony in that my history with supposed AI, although you can, I guess you can call Siri and some other things AI because they are capable. Some, or at least, I don't know about Siri. Siri's kind of dumb, and I just don't use voice control for anything because there's you can only tolerate a person can only tolerate so many instances of being frustrated before it's like, no, I'm going to be very literal and very strict, and I've used text-to-speech, which is definitely an AI thing. Speech-to-text. Text-to-speech is not so much. We've had that for we've had it for a lot longer than 20 years. Decent, we've had decent ones for about 20 years, but you still have to have some, there's a lot programming. It can be codified. There's much less codification when it comes to the way I think translation apps and stuff works these days. But anyway, so I kind of agree that in some ways the robot is probably the most unrealistic. In terms of emotion and that kind of processing, it's probably fine, but in terms of doing simple, what is generally considered a simple task for a human, we do have to suspend belief or suspend disbelief, I guess I'd say, to kind of make it work. Kind of let your sci-fi fantasy robot ideas fly for a bit. It's not too much. It's not like some sci-fi all, but anyway. Honestly, their characters, good and bad, have been covered. So I have this to the next person. KG5BZW.
Thank you, Jay. All right, we're at the bottom of the list. I'll give my comments in a minute. Does anyone else want to join us who was listening in? You don't have to have necessarily seen the film. We are talking about Robot and Frank from 2012, film starring Frank Langella and Susan Sarandon. So if you'd like to join us, please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see the film? Even if you didn't, it's okay. You can still check in. Please come now. Okay, well, it's just us tonight. I got a note from Brenda. She just got back from her wild and crazy party. She says, I'm tired from a long day of chopping cotton. So she has returned and says she's going to bed. That was about 3 minutes ago. So we're not going to hear from her tonight. I thought I'd just mention that she is thinking about us and about her pioneer woman experience this week. Yeah, there's not a lot I can add to what's already been said. I do think I'll talk about the acting. Since we've already talked about characterization, I think Frank Langella did a superb job in this thing. The way he handled the characterization was excellent, and I think he handled how a person with dementia might respond and act, I thought was quite unique. And honest in its portrayal. That anybody who's experienced this, especially, I get it so recently, and comparing with an actual case of that, I thought that was quite interesting. I really enjoyed it. I did not talk about the robot, which is played by Rachel Ma, I guess, and some of the movements and things that they did. I think that it was really well done. There were 2 comical portions in there where the 2 of them act and react together, Frank and the robot, which was fun. But I thought that the robot really came out as a viable character to all of this. One without a moral compass of any sort, only acting in a subservient role. But I thought that was also cool. There was, they bring up the argument of whether he's just playing a surrogate for his son and daughter ultimately, but I don't know, maybe not. It is a good question to ask. Don't we do the same thing with television right now? Here, watch television, keep yourself busy. That doesn't exactly help anybody in the end, and they were thinking that the robot wouldn't provide any sort of help along the way. Well, they came up surprised. So the robot got wiped, and then Frank went back even further into his shell, we think. So I thought that was quite interesting. Pacing was excellent. I think that what kind of made some of the characters garish is how understated everybody else was. Sarandon role, Jennifer and Frank, they're pretty understated throughout the film. And the robot acts in a very matter-of-fact but sympathetic way. And they just stole the show, particularly Frank and the robot. Other characters, while trying to act, with a capital A, I guess, come off as being somewhat fake and difficult to believe. I would almost think that if their characters could have been written a little better, they were more like a distraction than anything, because the story was going along swimmingly, but maybe there wasn't enough there to just keep the camera completely focused on, the 3 of them in this case, and bringing in these other characters. The Sheriff Rawlings, okay, I don't really care about the guy. Who else? Madison was okay, but she was kind of whiny, and I got tired of that. And then, Hunter. The Hunter character was okay, but came off as kind of flat. So the additional characters, the supporting characters, I don't think did much support in the end, and that could have been the writing, I'm not sure. And you had these master actors in these other roles, so I think they just kind of, what's the line? There are no small parts, only small actors, or that was one, and then I've always been great with pictures that got small from Sunset Boulevard. I don't know. I just threw that out there for the favorite line. Mary said. So if you stay focused on the regular characters, and you could build something out a little longer, it was an hour and 40 minutes, I think, without the supplemental characters, I think it would have taken 20 minutes out of the film, and at least in dialogue, and it's just not long enough for a typical modern film these days. So that may have been what they did. I don't know. I think that it could be done. From what I understand, this was actually cribbed from an Indian film from 2 years before, and when they compared with that film, many people thought that the Indian film was superior. So I have no way of knowing for sure one way or the other, but I may go back and try and watch that film just to see what that really means in the scheme of things. But overall, I think the performances overall with our three main characters in this were well delivered in a very nice and compact sort of way, and the emotion is there, but it wasn't overwhelming, and it works for this film. I think it was only filmed in a couple of weeks, which was kind of a surprise, so they didn't have a lot of time to outside of the rehearsals ahead of time, to really, improve the craft, because they're moving from scene to scene, and I think it overall came out remarkably well for this short time. It says here, 89 minutes, so that's about right, so 90 minutes, 89 minutes, so an hour and a half. There wasn't a lot of time, so 20 days, says that was the film. So I've made my peace with all of that. It's 11:46. We've got time, and there's just the six of us. So special effects. I don't know if there's a lot to talk about there, but we'll quickly go down the list, or we won't. We will go down the list in whatever speed we deem as appropriate. So I'll start at the top with Bill, N5BB. Bill, your comments on the special effects, music, anything you may have missed beforehand. This is the final round. Go ahead, from KE5ICS.
Yes, this is N5BB. I'll be honest, I didn't notice the music. I apologize. Maybe somebody else did. Special effects, well, evidently the robot was mostly or all a human in the robot suit. And I thought that was done very clearly and well. And I don't know of any other special effects that I can think of. Unless you want to call the car, some of the vehicles, there was a little tiny vehicle that was, a little electric vehicle that was zipping by him there. It was kind of interesting. There were what looked like the regular cars, like the BMW that his son Hunter had, looked just kind of like a regular BMW to me. But then there were, and the old van looked like, and the police car looked like regular things we would see from, 10 years ago. But there was this one or two little special vehicles, like this little narrow apparently electric vehicle that zipped around Frank when he was walking on the road. And so I guess that could be viewed as special effect. They were a little bit inconsistent about it being real futuristic. I mean, the robot thing was obviously a bit futuristic. But there weren't a lot, and the phones they had were similar to current phones, except you could kind of see through them. They looked like little translucent glass things. But other than that, they were very similar to what we have now, and probably seemed very futuristic, a little bit futuristic for when the movie came out, when that kind of stuff was just kind of being started. The videos with his daughter overseas, all that video chat stuff probably seemed rather futuristic when the movie was filmed. Something that was kind of slightly in the future, but now it seems pretty old hat. There's nothing special about that, and the quality was kind of rough. I guess that's what I can think about special effects. This is in 5BB. For those that don't know, Frank Langella is a very famous actor, been around, of course, a long time. He was about 75 years old, I think, when this movie was filmed, and now he's about, 85 or something. But he's about 10 years older than Susan Sarandon. But he's done a lot of things. Played villains and played kind of Dracula kind of characters and all kinds of things. So he's done a wide range of things in his career. Oh, by the way, the last few minutes I've been typing into OpenAI, the GPT, the thing that's gotten all the interest recently. I've been asking about the Dallas Amateur Radio Club and AfterglowNet. It doesn't know anything about the AfterglowNet or Skynet. It thinks Skynet, of course, is a thing from the movie. But Dallas Amateur Radio Club, what's weird is when you ask about Dallas Amateur Radio Club, about 2/3 or 3/4 of the time it says, "I'm sorry, I couldn't find any information about Dallas Amateur Radio Club." But it says, if there was such a club, here's what it would do, and it's very accurate. But the other 1/4 to 1/3 of the time, it knows about the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, although sometimes it thinks it was founded in 1909, and sometimes it thinks it was founded in 1914, which I think is correct. And sometimes it thinks it's associated with not only the ARRL, but the Radio Club of America, which isn't. And but most of the activity it talks about, when it does know about it, is correct. It talks about Aries and races and community events and training and education classes. So anyway, this AI stuff is going to be really changing in the next couple of years, and it's affecting already, of course, what you see with asking smart devices. But it's going to get a lot better. So I think it's going to be used for the kind of thing we saw in the movie. Like I said earlier, it's being used now. I think it's going to be used a lot more. But as Tom was pointing out, or maybe Tony, it may not be a robotic thing. It's much more difficult to build a mechanical thing that moves around like that. I think that's all I got. Again, I liked the movie. I'm really glad that we saw this movie, and I feel a lot better about things. And I would probably see this movie again. I might wait a year or two, but I think it'd be fun to see it again. And if I'd known about it, I would have seen it in the movie theater. N5BB. Good night.
All right, thank you, Bill. And when I saw this, actually, I remember the movie coming out. It was a trailer that showed in a theater or something, and I saw it back in 2012. This might be interesting to see, and then it out of sight, out of mind. And it popped up on whatever streaming platform it was on, and I watched the trailer and thought, oh, geez, this might be fun to watch. So I went ahead and put it in since it was available to us. Next up, Tony, NT5TM. Tony, your final comments. Anything you want. We're talking technical effects, but anything you want from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, the robot was kind of obviously a person in a robot suit, not painted silver like in the 50s, but it had that same kind of blocky, weird-looking legs and very oversized parts that were meant to hide a human inside. But I actually wanted to praise that a little bit because in the 50s, they always did that in a very slow, awkward way as the robot would stumble to take a couple of steps forward, and we were all supposed to be impressed that it didn't fall over. They did make an effort to do that traditional sort of very awkward robot suit thing well. I was actually pleased by that. And that's all I have to say about effects. The music was definitely there, but yeah, I can't remember anything particularly distinctive about it. NT5TM.
Well, short and sweet, that's okay. Next up, KB5 SOK. Sean, your final thoughts.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree. The robot was clearly a person in a suit, but I also think it was pretty well done, actually, especially knowing that this movie was only filmed in 2 weeks now. That makes a lot of sense. Obviously, they can't, clearly it wasn't, they weren't going to do, your typical special effects over it or, green screen and all that fun stuff. So, being that they went with practical, which wasn't a choice, which in some ways is good. I think that something like this, it feels more real. So yeah, I think they did pretty good. They were very smart in a lot of the scenes and didn't waste time trying to show you, watch the robot go up the stairs or actually make the dinner much, because that would just be, quite honestly, a waste of time, and that would take a lot of that they didn't have. So yeah, it's just best to skip that kind of stuff if you really can't do it well, which, clearly they couldn't do that, which is the person in a suit. So, but all in all, I thought the robot was decent. Like Bill said, it was a little confusing. They saying this was in the future, and I thought the same thing. They started out and showed the electric car, and I thought, okay, but then they turned around and showed regular vehicles. So it's like, it took you a little bit out of it. And then, the cell phones just being a clear through, super thin, plastic-looking thing. We see a lot of sci-fi shows showing that it's basically the future, and we are going towards that direction to where, it is just going to be like a plate of glass. So, there are parts of it that did feel futuristic and parts that didn't. But once again, it wasn't bad. Not a lot to say there on the effects. As far as, the music, I didn't pay much attention to it either. So sometimes it's good. That means it was, didn't interrupt the show. So that's okay as well. I think the sound and all that stuff was fine. The only other thing I kind of forgot to mention earlier that actually Tom brought up was a little bit of the humor between the robot and Frank. I thought was kind of funny. I kind of got a dry, sarcastic sense of humor myself, so some of that did make me chuckle. I thought that was interesting, and then I love the line there at the end when he, after he wiped the robot's memory, Frank saying, "I knew there was an off switch." So there was those touches of humor that were kind of nice in it as well, but not overdone, which is nice. So all in all, good movie. Anybody listening, I'd recommend it, and looking forward to the next one. Everybody have a good evening. KB9SOK.
Hey, very good. Thank you, Sean, and thank you for your comments. Very enjoyable this evening. KI5KWG, Cruz, your final comments.
KI5KWG, I loved the music. I thought the music was great. I'm so surprised y'all aren't talking about it. I really liked the music. So I thought it was well done, well chosen, and beautiful pieces, and a lot of Mozart. KI5KWG, back to net.
All right, well, we finally got a thumbs up on the music. Okay, next is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, your final comments on anything about this film. Go ahead, from KE5ICS.
KG5BZW. Just a quick note. I'm pretty sure I didn't look through the like IMDb's there. Myself from okay, let me put it this way. I didn't see anything referencing this. I can't say for sure, but it sure does look like the Asimo robots made by Honda, which was actually created by Honda in 2000, and kind of ironically, the last updates On July 2018, Honda posted their last update of ASMO through their official page, stating that it would be ceasing all development and production of ASMO robots in order to focus on more practical applications using the technology developed through
Elvis,
right.
the building.
You look at it, and all. It just seems like it's a clear reference to it. Of course, now these days we've got Boston Robotics, and they're rather less like in movement robots. They still aren't quite like in appearance. Although if you're going for movement purist, well, I don't know. It's pretty good. But we're talking years in the future, not when this film was made. Other than that, I can't think of anything else. Head back to net control. Good evening, K25BTW.
All right, very good. Thank you, Jay, and thank you, everybody. My comments are only just to add what's already been said, and that is that I looked down the page on the wiki on this, and it does mention Honda Azimuth, which is what you also mentioned, which I think is Azimuth in disguise. And I'm sure there's a whole thing on all of that. But it made sense to me and why it looked like that. And don't forget, too, we've been spoiled by special effects, digital effects in recent years. So when we see something like that, we go, how quaint. It's a person inside of a costume, and we recognize it immediately. So, but today, the films and the technology has made it so that now it's indistinguishable, and you can make people into robots if you want to digitally, and the robots definitely look and function like robots, like you would expect. No human being to sit inside of them. And that's been proven over and over again in the Star Wars movies after the original series, of course, and the newer ones that have come out. The music, I remember some of it. I don't remember all of it, and I'm usually a music fiend. I do agree with Cruz that it was good when I listened to it, but I've kind of forgotten it since then. And Alfred Hitchcock was famous for using Bernard Herrmann, one of the great composers of the Silver Age of motion pictures. He and Hitchcock got into a fight. He says, your movies wouldn't be any good without me composing it. I don't know how that came about, but somehow or another that came out. And Hitchcock fired him, and the next movie he did was The Birds. You watch The Birds, you don't realize there's absolutely no music in that movie, not a note. And I never noticed it, which is something for a guy who buys hundreds of dollars worth of soundtrack recordings every year. So I'm not sure how to approach that except to say, isn't that interesting? Okay, that's all I've got. Let me tell you, we've got another winner, folks. I found this online, and our next week's movie, we've shown this one before, but it's a good movie, is worth repeating. It will be Apollo 13, the Tom Hanks film from 1995. So I'll send all the links for all that information probably tomorrow morning sometime. You'll find it there, and it is available, I think, with ads for free. So I'm going to say 7-3, everybody. I loved the discussion tonight. It was a lot of fun. And somehow or another, we managed to go over an hour and a half. Let me reset. So we'll see you again next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. I'm going to go watch Lost in Space. I forget what this one is. I think it's Dr. Smith in a cape, a silver cape, and a silver skull cap with silver makeup, and he talks in that weird, creepy voice that he uses. Something of the Cave of the Wizards, I think, is the name of this one. Remember, I'm a Lost in Space savant. I've been mentioned in other materials, and I'll show you sometime, knowing all that stuff. Why I have no earthly idea. All right, see y'all later. 7-3, have a good evening, have a good next week. KE5ICS, clear.